Handsome dude. Not really my type. Oh God, I almost died.
The beard, so because of the baby face,
Yeah.
it's hard to be taken seriously as a vice president if you look like a baby.
Yeah. Because he has a short beard, right?
He does now.
That's good. 49 days from
The day I met him.
to the day he proposed.
Mhm.
49.
Mhm.
We're back live, by the way.
Okay. You want me to repeat what I just said?
No,
Okay.
because we'll go back into the Jordan Peter, like where we were talking when we got. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We had technical difficulties.
It was because of me.
That's okay. But no, 49 days. We were just talking about Emily while we were trying to get this fixed and her engagement. You met your husband on a blind date, and 49 days after that date, he said, "Will you marry me?"
Yes.
And everybody thought that you were pregnant, but you were not.
And then 4 months after the day he proposed, we were married.
Was it a big wedding?
Um,
Did you have your traditional girl white dress
so
kind of?
there were a lot of people at the wedding, but it was a very simple, no bridesmaids, no groomsmen. I had a flower girl, one of my cousins. She was 10-ish at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and she scattered the rose petals and stood up there next to the minister.
Oh, she was your bridesmaid too.
I honestly was because my husband was in a fraternity. He had plenty of guys he could have asked to be groomsmen. But at the time, obviously, my two sisters would have been
Mhm.
my maid of honors, I guess. And they had both been in so many weddings as bridesmaids and maid of honors. And it was not their favorite thing at all.
Yeah.
And they had complained about it so many times over the years that whenever it was my turn, I was just like,
Let's do something simple.
yeah. And so, I mean, we had a 15-minute ceremony and a 45-minute reception. But we had 300 people there.
Yeah. Me and Rachel, we got married in the public library downtown.
Oh, cool.
So we were just going to do it in the lobby. A friend of mine took lunch, Kelly. She took lunch to come and take photos of us. She had a professional camera. My mom found a little quiet reading room on the west side of the public library, which was facing the Civics Center.
Mhm.
So, like, that was kind of behind us. So it was free to do that.
Perfect.
And then we had our little reception at the bar she worked at, Lumpy's, that night, you know? And I mean, we didn't spend very much money on it. And I know that she wants a big wedding. Say, you leave the princess alone. Leave her alone. Such a boy. I know she wanted a big wedding, so I want to, on our 10-year anniversary, I want to.
Have a big party. Do a vow renewal thing.
Yes, I want to do a vow renewal for sure, but I want to invite people. Like, I want to take her out to Hawaii and like rent a spot on the beach and like, I don't know if that's exactly what she wants, but it would be nice and beautiful at sunset, like
That'd be gorgeous.
something for her,
Yeah.
something.
Both his parents and my parents
She's all right. Don't worry.
gave us a set amount of money.
Mhm.
Like,
It's all right.
okay.
She's just clearing her throat.
Both gave us a set amount of money, and he had student loans, and so I was like, let's just do this as cheap as possible, and whatever we don't spend, we'll put on student loans.
Oh,
So, like,
that's very smart, honestly.
the photographer was free. It was my husband's grandpa. The food was at cost because my mother-in-law's best friend was a culinary arts teacher at Platt College. His suit was on sale. I got my dress at cost because my sister Laura knew the lady who owned this bridal studio in Edmond.
Yeah.
We did everything under $6,000.
Nice. I don't even think ours cost 1,000. Like, I think we spent more on our clothes
Mm-hmm.
than we did on anything, honestly. I had to have custom shoes because I wanted to wear Chucks.
Oh,
I
cool.
wanted to be one of those guys who was in a, nice but had Chucks on. So I had some custom colors made to match my clothes and her dress. And they literally arrived 5 minutes before we walked out of our door to go get married. Like the UPS truck pulled up. I was about to wear flip flops. The UPS truck pulled up and the dude got off. I was like, man, you made my wife so happy. You don't even know. He literally delivered them 5 minutes before we
Oh,
walked out of the door to go get married. I know. I was like, shit.
yeah, the only thing, if I could redo it, I would have had a more legit reception.
Yeah.
Because there was no dance floor, no DJ. It was at a church reception hall, so there was no alcohol.
Hmm.
I was in my dress from start to finish for like an hour and a half. Like, I wish I could have
That's
saved that a little.
that's another reason I want to do something big for our 10 years. My wife didn't actually get to wear the dress that she wanted.
Mm.
She ended up with two. She found one. She found her wedding dress that her dad paid for. And then she found, I don't remember why there was a second dress, but she ended up wearing the second one, which we found. I want to say it was at like J.C. Penney's. It was prom season.
Mm-hmm.
So, like all those prom gala dresses, she found one in there. She looked absolutely amazing still. Um, but she didn't get to wear the dress she wanted to. So I want her to be able to do that. You know what I mean?
Amazing, you want to.
Gus, leave her alone.
And
Princess.
I feel like those big milestones in marriage, I think, deserve to be celebrated just as much
Absolutely.
as the initial wedding, because marriage is hard.
Marriage is very hard.
And I think those major milestones deserve to be celebrated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many years have you been married? 13?
13 this last December.
What did y'all do at your 10? Did you do anything or oh, you couldn't do anything?
We couldn't decide if we wanted to go to Ireland because we both have Irish descent. My grandparents lived in Ireland, always wanted to go, or if I wanted to go to like the Bahamas, do the whole like live in a fancy hut on the side of the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were making plans about to renew our passports and
What date did y'all get married? What, like month and date?
December 17th.
December 17th. Oh wow. So you were March, April. Oh, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. 9 months into lockdowns were still going on in some places in 2020, 9 months in.
Yeah. So our 10-year anniversary, we were like, oh man, well, maybe next year. And then I ended up having some surgeries the next year. And
Life
I think
happens.
every year we've been like, oh, maybe next year. So we
Oh,
haven't.
15's coming up.
Yeah, I was like, and that's what I told him. I was like, for 15, we got to do
Yeah.
something. So we will.
Yeah, we're cusping 8 this year. We'll be married for 8 years.
Easy.
Yeah. And you're right, marriage is hard. Like me and my wife luckily went through something extremely difficult. I've talked about it on a podcast. I just told you about it. But while we were on our little break, uh we went through something very hard before we got married. So, like honestly, everything else seems kind of easy. Like the arguments that you may have with your spouse and whatnot, you know. But how,
Um,
no, I was just gonna ask how do you deal with like I don't mean your everyday you need to do the dishes more argument. I mean the argument where things are hard in
well,
marriage. Where, like I'm sure you fall back on your faith a bit and everything, but like how do you deal with those things?
I always tell single people whenever they've ever asked me for like marriage advice or advice on who you look for to marry. I say like it's easy to have fun with just about almost anybody. The person you want to marry is the person you can suffer well with, who can lean into you when times are hard and not lean back,
Hmm.
and uh, like be your rock and your safe place when things are falling apart around you. And a lot of people are not awarded the opportunity to see how the other person is going to respond in those situations before they're married.
Hmm.
And then I think some people are disappointed or fall apart because their foundation isn't strong enough to withstand those storms when life throws it at you. Um, but something that has helped my marriage that we started doing early on was it started out as weekly check-ins, but it hasn't been quite weekly. No.
What do you mean by weekly check-ins?
So every week we would sit down on a Sunday night usually, and no distractions, no TV on or anything, and each person gets to ask the other person 3 questions. The first one is, when did you feel loved well this week? Start on a good note, positive encouragement. And then the next one is the hardest one. When did you not feel loved well this week by me? And this is not the opportunity for the other person to go this and this and this and this. You choose one battle you want to discuss.
One specific instance.
You can't speak in vague terms. You need to be specific and pick your battle and not choose too many things at once. And then you also communicate that hurt as respectful and grace filled as you can. You got to be very aware of your tone. And you say I statements, not you statements. I felt upset when this happened, not you always do this type of wording. And then the third question is, and how can I love you better now? So you ask for specific feedback because we're not mind readers.
Hmm.
We don't know how other people want to be loved. And when we
Breathe, girl. Breathe.
specific feedback and examples of when things meant a lot to them, whether it was a positive or negative, because a lot of times we can take for granted when something seems simple and little to us, it could mean the world to the other person. We have no idea. And so, in asking those questions weekly to each other, it avoids situations of like nagging or repetitive problems or resentment, and helps you almost perfect the way you love one another.
Hmm.
Because just like in a job, to stay in good standing in a job, you have yearly evaluations and sometimes quarterly check-ins on how well you're performing and feedback on how to do better.
Hmm.
I think being in a marriage is one of the most important things we have, because it's one of the biggest influences we have on another person's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's so easy to get complacent and apathetic, and like I think it's important to continue to try to take care of yourself physically, not just because you want to look nice for the other person, but also for your future health. To take care of yourself because your health has a huge impact on the other person's well-being, and take care of yourself spiritually and mentally and emotionally, and like literally come to that relationship as healthy as you can in all ways, because I feel like people do a really good job at trying to be the best version of themselves, and then once they get married they're like, they love me anyway.
No, you still got to work.
And well, and like I love that you like have really continued to strive to be the best version of yourself you can be and challenge yourself and do hard things. But that's not always the case that I've seen, especially in American culture.
Most people choose the easy path, and that's making us weak.
Because
Unfortunately,
you can't be strong unless you do hard things.
you can't. You're absolutely right. Like that's one of the reasons why, uh, for example, the race I was telling you about, my next goal race is to do a 100-mile race, which I'm sure your friend will listen to it. What's your friend's name? The ultra marathon?
Dwyer.
Julie Dwyer. I'd like to talk to you. But I heard someone say, do things that you're not sure if you can accomplish. And that's one of the reasons why I picked 100-mile. Like I did a marathon last year. I skipped the 50 mile. I skipped the 50K and the 50 mile, and I just went to my next goal race is 100. Now, unfortunately, I have to do this because I've put it out there to the world. And if I don't, then I just look like a little bitch, unfortunately. Um, but pick things that you're not sure if you can accomplish. Like my very first race that I did after I got sober, I was not prepared for at all. It was a, do you know what Spartan race is?
Mhm. I've done something similar.
I did a Spartan beast race. Oh, it's noon. Every Oklahoman knows it's noon. Um, I did a Spartan Beast race, and the specific Spartan Beast race is a half a marathon with 33 obstacles in it. Yeah, it took me, I think it was, I don't remember how many. It was like over 4 hours it took me to do. Um, to where I realized I had much stronger grip strength than I thought I did. Because it's a lot of American Ninja Warrior
Yeah,
upper body swing yourself around type obstacles.
I did conquer the gauntlet,
Okay.
which is 27 obstacles, but only 4 lines.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically those same obstacles, but in a half marathon distance. And this was in San Luis Obispo, California.
Oh,
Have you ever been there?
oh,
Okay. It's a very beautiful place north of LA, close to the ocean, but it's a hilly terrain. Where we specifically were at was literally hills and mountains all the way around us, and then that's where the course went through. So it was a whole bunch of this. And I was not prepared for this race, but I was also determined not to quit. Like I literally drove from Oklahoma City to San Luis Obispo, checked into my hotel room, slept that night, woke up early the next day, did the race, which took me over 4 hours, slept for an hour and a half in the back of my car, and then drove from San Luis Obispo back to Oklahoma City. And I was so sore the entire drive home. When I stopped to get, like, sitting in my vehicle wasn't hard, but getting out to get gas, I literally had to do this. I literally had to like push myself because my legs didn't work properly, you know? I don't recommend doing that if you go do a race. Don't drive back immediately afterwards. That sucks. Um, yeah, it was pretty far. I don't mind driving though. The driving part was not the hard part. The cramping muscles was the hard part in that aspect. But like you got to continue to get in order to get better, you have to do harder and harder things, you know.
I love Andrew Huberman,
hmm I know Andrew Huberman.
and he recently saw a quick clip of one of his podcast episodes of him talking
No.
about a structure in the brain that grows bigger when we do things we don't want to do, and it's associated to with the will to live and length of life.
Really?
Yeah, and the more often you do things that you don't want to do, like get into an ice bath or do hard workouts, along the stronger your will to live is. So when you are faced with those literally life and death challenges, you're more likely to survive.
That's what like it's physicality is also a very mental thing. Like it's not just about being big and strong.
Oh yeah,
It's about being mentally tough.
it's just as much of a mental game as it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You got to uh there's this lady named Courtney DeWalter. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's an ultra marathoner and like she runs 200-mile races and she calls it the pain cave. Like you just go into this place where you push all the pain out of your head, and it's so hard to do because even just like when I go on a 6 mile run, a quick 5.5 to 6 mile run, um, by the end of it, my feet hurt and I want to stop running 3 miles into it every single time. But something in my head just like, hey, don't be a bitch, you know? Like you said you were gonna run 5 miles, so run 5 miles. Um, I heard one of the things that helped me get into a better mental state was motivational speeches. You can find so many of them on
Yeah.
YouTube.
So
So
what are
many of
some
them.
ones specifically that you can like?
Well, I don't find anyone specific that I listen to. Like I just hit click on one and then it'll play the next one or whatever comes on. And so sometimes you hear different stuff, but a lot of times it's the same thing from everybody, like motivation is motivation no matter who you are. Um I told somebody once before, like, it's not about hearing something new and profound. It's about hearing enough to I start to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I listen to it on a regular basis. It's just like reminding myself, yeah, yeah, and that's why I came up with the mantra leg on my leg. I'll show you later. It's the bottom half of my leg. But I came up with my own mantra and it's I am a badass. I must succeed. It reiterates my worth, but then also tells me, hey, you have to do this because you said you were going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the you must succeed part. Um Shit, where was I going? I got sidetracked on my
All
mantra
right.
leg.
We were talking about mental pain. Uh,
Oh, the pain cave.
yeah, yeah, thank
The
you.
pain cave. Um and when you get to I heard on those motivational speeches, this one guy, he said, if I tell myself I'm going to do 10 miles on the treadmill and I get to mile 9 and I break my leg, I will limp and hobble that extra mile because I told myself that I'm going to do it. And if I don't complete it, then when it's time to do something, when life sends something your way that's hard and that you have to push through, you're going to end up caving because when you were practicing, you gave up.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's time to fight the actual fight, in the back of your head that you're a quitter.
Mm-hmm.
So
We do that in jujitsu. Like the way you train is the way you're going to do it in tournament or in real life. So
that's one of the things I like about jujitsu is most of the time you're going 100%. Like I've rolled with some guys that were much better than me, but my determination not to give up, you
you go
know,
along.
can go a very long way because that's really all you need is just that strong mental drive. Like I mean that's how I got my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Persistence. Like I was telling you earlier, it took years for me to convince her to marry me, you know? But that persistence over time somehow got her to be like, "You know what? I love this dumb boy."
Well, and I think every woman just wants to feel safe and valued. And sometimes it takes convincing
Mm.
for us to trust like he's not going anywhere. He's he's in it for the long haul.
That's one of the things that hurt most whenever she was sick was that people thought that I would cut and run. I think that's what hurt the most. Hey, hey, back up. Back up off these cords. Go. 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 That would have not been good. I think the camera falling was bad. Samuels, go. Um, oh, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
So I went to his lecture. This is where they cut off, ladies and gentlemen. We're back to that part now.
Mhm.
I went to his lecture the other night at the Paycom. It was really awesome. I feel like it should have been better. Do you know a gentleman named Constantine? He's kind of along the same lines as Jordan Peterson as far as psychology
Oh,
goes. He's an English gentleman. Um, but people can look him up if they want. But he was there with them, and so the way it worked, this gentleman came out and played music on a guitar for a little while to kind of set the mood, and then Constantine came out and explained how the lecture was going to go. That Jordan was going to come out and talk, and then afterwards, Constantine, his job was to poke holes at what Jordan Peterson said, like to question his viewpoints to kind of make him
yeah, like a debate going or a
uh
discussion.
not really a debate, but really make Jordan think.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And So then Jordan came out and he talked for a while, and it was called "We Who Wrestle with God." So it was very biblical based lecture. He kind of took stories like, for example, Cain and Abel, and applied them to life and kind of how it, the meaning and everything. But I'm so nerdy that I took notes. Yeah. The best quote that I got was at the end of the night. Um, he was talking about how we as a country, not we, because he's Canadian. So he's not American. He's not an American citizen. He's Canadian, but he was talking about American society and talking about how we've lost, we've gotten away from our principles as a country, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier about people saying something when they see something bad going on. But my favorite quote from that night was, "One man speaking the truth is an army against the legion of deceit." That is totally a Jordan Peterson thing to say. Um, but I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When people see something bad going on and do nothing, that allows evil to prevail over good, you know, and we need to get back to that point where good outweighs the evil,
Mhm.
you know. But his lecture was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Uh,
Yeah, whenever I heard he was in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City,
it was
yeah,
at the Paycom Center.
yeah, um, I was so bummed that I didn't get to go to it.
Yeah, I kind of bought my ticket last minute. It was one of those things. My buddy was like, he said he was going. I was like, man, I've watched him on YouTube. He's in many a motivational speeches.
He's
Jordan Peterson's talks, like, and listening to him is kind of what got me interested in psychology and everything, and just seeing how people are towards each other. Like you were saying earlier, how instead of saying you did this to me, this is how I feel. Like taking accountability and all those things. People don't do that anymore. Everybody's got an excuse for everything. It's not their fault. This person caused this person caused that. And no one sits there. Man, I was at work last night, and this girl that works there, she had some issue with her phone, and she kind of had a little meltdown a little bit over the fact that her phone didn't work properly. Um, Everybody's got their own things to deal with. Everybody puts priority on things, but I'm listening to her complain about how her phone didn't work reminded me of listening to a coke addict that didn't have coke.
Mhm.
Like it was
It is
eerily similar. Hmm.
I was required to go to a lecture at my children's school called Digital Cocaine. Are you familiar?
I am familiar with the thought that phones elicit the same response in the brain as snorting a line of cocaine does,
Yeah.
like the endorphins that it releases and things like that. I'm familiar with that. Dopamine.
That is motivating, but also makes us feel good.
Hmm.
And like dopamine is what makes us addicted to gambling or drugs. It's not actual the drug or the gambling that's addictive.
It's the dopamine release.
What we release when we do those things. And he showed MRI imaging of brain activity. So it wasn't showing like the structure of the brain, but the activity in the brain, the electrical activity in the brain. And he showed pictures side by side of someone addicted to drugs, whether it was meth or cocaine, heroin, and someone who's addicted to screens in general, like gaming, to like literally any type of screen. And there was less brain activity in someone addicted to screens than there was even with drugs.
Hmm.
And the brain already looks like Swiss cheese with when you're addicted to drugs, and it's even worse whenever you're addicted to screens. And they just talked about how important it is not to have TVs in our bedrooms and to have those like willpower and disciplined to do other things other than just mindlessly scrolling all the time in all of our free time.
And how are you as parents going to deal with that with your children?
They don't like it.
Of course not.
We do. I let my kids have about 30 minutes of some kind of screen time. I let them choose what screen time they get.
You mean TV, phone, tablets?
But they do have iPads. 10-year-old with his birthday money this last year bought himself a Switch Lite.
Okay.
That is,
that's a gaming system, right?
Gaming system. We don't have the full-on Switch yet. I've avoided buying gaming system as long as I possibly can for my children. We do have my husband's old school Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
We have like 5 of the old school games.
Yeah.
And whenever my son was like 3, we let him play Mario a couple times, and after he saw my husband do that, he was like, and I was like, oh, great. But like it's such a hassle to hook up the gaming system anyway. They legit game less than once a month.
Mm-hmm.
But so I let them have 30 minutes screen time in the morning. I don't let them watch YouTube unless I'm in the room watching it with them, because all sorts of creepy stuff, even on YouTube Kids, can sneak up there.
Oh, there's
like Momo. Did you hear about Momo?
No, but we'll get into it in a second.
Sure. But are you?
No, go ahead.
And,
I just didn't want you to lose your train of thought. I'll remember Momo.
And then in after school in the evenings, I'll let them have 30 minutes before they do their homework.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, we'll get some right after dinner for just a little while before we run off to do something. But I don't let them watch any screen time right before bed.
Which is fantastic. Yeah.
I teach a class over how to get improved sleep, and the amount of lumens that is emitted from the sunrise, the exact same amount of lumens emitted from blue light. So it's literally, if you try to go to sleep after watching any screen, it's literally like staring at the sunrise and then trying to go to sleep. And people wonder why their sleep is crap.
Mm-hmm. Which Andrew Huberman said that like one of the best ways to set your internal clock is to, like, right when you get out, is to look into the light. Yeah. And one of my favorite things, because I would usually wake up at 5 a.m. most mornings, just because I have so much to do in my day, you know. But when I'm out running, I usually have a morning run of some sorts. But I'm usually running when the sun comes up, and I make it a point to stop and just like kind of just
absorb it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, just let the sun hit me and just feel the warmth on your face, and maybe not necessarily stare at the sun. I'm not trying to, make myself blind. And that's what I do, is I kind of just observe the sky when I'm kind of taking that in. So, but what's the Momo thing?
So Momo is a video that was created by, it's video series that was created by some really evil person. I don't know who they are, but if you saw a picture of what Momo is in these videos, if you saw a screenshot, you know immediately it's evil. I can't honestly tell if it's a computer generated face or if it's someone wearing a weird mask and amazing makeup. But their face is super, super long, way longer than a real person's face. And it's pale and it's got these huge buggy eyes and black stringy hair, usually some kind of just plain black dress. And they explain to children how to kill themselves, but it sounds like a game.
And this is how the video starts out? Or it starts out with like some sort of children programming, and then
it's just her, and I've never watched.
No, I get it.
But I've read news articles about it and heard through the grapevine, and I've talked to some children who have seen part of these videos and been very traumatized. But yeah, it's like, and then you turn on the stove and they make it sound like a game.
There's some weird people.
And it's manufactured in the genre of children's videos. So it has still snuck by YouTube Kids filters and gotten even on the YouTube Kids app that's supposed to be filtered.
Yeah.
So you can't.
Wow.
You can't be too careful.
No.
So
makes sense why you watch with them.
Yeah. You know? So if they are watching YouTube, because I don't want them to live in a cave and be like, "What's that?" when they go to school. But
I understand that, but I don't know how many times I've been watching YouTube and what's up next is some random thing that maybe I wouldn't have picked.
mhm,
It's just whatever the algorithm throws in there. Ads are I purchased YouTube Premium just to get rid of the ads because I got so tired of commercials. Yeah. I'd rather just pay the additional whatever it is a month to not have ads. So,
yeah. But my husband and I are committed to not let our children have social media until hopefully 18, possibly 16, depending on the maturity level. They will not have phones. And hopefully till 15 was when I got my first phone because I started working and was away from my parents.
yeah, but phones were not what they are now when
Right.
you turn
Right.
15.
It was a
Yeah,
Nokia, actually. So,
because you said you're 35, right? So that was 20 years ago. Like smartphones weren't even out
no,
when
no,
you,
yeah.
you know,
Super cool whenever I had a BlackBerry when I was 21.
my wife was just watching Sex in the City recently, and on it they have a BlackBerry, and I was like, "Ugh, Blackberries."
Um, uh, yeah, and so we're committed to uh, if my child got in some competitive sport where I had to drop him or her off at practice frequently, or if they were working or away from me often, I would get them probably like a Nokia type razor.
Hmm.
I'm pretty committed at protecting their developing brains from all that dopamine dump they would get from social media or
Well, that's what social media itself is ridiculously addicting. I got rid of my Facebook, my Instagram. I never had Twitter or anything like that. But I got rid of it years and years ago. And I just recently started my Instagram back up when I decided to start doing this podcast to kind of help promote it. And I mean, almost instantly, I started to get addicted to it. Like, I find myself when I'm at work going back to my locker, checking my Instagram to see if I have a fucking like. I was supposed to say that, fuck, whatever. But like, I don't even have that many followers on Instagram. There's no way that if I post something in the morning at 8 o'clock at night, I should still be getting likes. You know what I mean? I don't have that many followers. Like, but my brain is like, oh, you should go see if you got a like back there, man. Maybe somebody looked at this and
oh,
it's ridiculous.
so
And
easy.
I'm a grown man.
Yeah, your brain's fully developed.
Yeah, my brain's fully developed. I can't imagine a 15-year-old or I completely understand why depression rates skyrocketed when the advent of social media came around. Like, everybody's comparing themselves to these beautiful people who are living these fantastic lives, and now, like, influencer is a job.
Yeah, it's so sad. Like every other kid now, where you're like, what
Wants
do
to be
you
an
do?
influencer. Like,
And
I
like,
understand people can make money from it, and good for them for doing it, but most of them are just stupid, like the Catch Me Outside girl, you
right,
know? Like, most of it is just
not
idiotic
quality
thing. It's not quality, it's quantity.
recorded.
Yeah, an idiot. Like, I mean, reality TV shows played a lot to do with that too.
I mean,
I mean, look at the Kardashians. How many seasons have they had for their show? And it's like watching, have you ever watched an episode? I never really got into it, but I've seen a couple episodes and it's just ridiculous.
well,
No one lives like that except for them.
the older generations try to act like it's only the younger generations doing this.
No.
So I've worked in my job for 15 years with primarily the boomer generation. When I first started cardiogram 6 years ago, part of my evaluation process is like, tell me about your hobbies. What do you do to calm yourself down when you feel stressed to see if they have any coping mechanisms? It used to always be what you would expect: quilting, woodworking, tinkering in my shop, reading. I would say 75% of them were like TV, scrolling on my phone, playing Candy Crush.
But see, what people don't understand is that's not relaxing.
No,
It's creating more
it's
stress.
stimulating.
Yeah.
And, yeah. almost all of them aren't sleeping well because all they do is scroll and watch TV all night, and they're white knuckling that screen time before bed. They're like, I've always watched the news right before bed. I'm like, that is not conducive for healthy sleep.
Yeah.
You can't complain about your mental health and being tired all the time and be unwilling to change it.
How much do you notice as far as resistance goes? Because I mean, obviously, you point out, I'm sure, in those sessions with people that, hey, what you just described to me is part of the reason why you're stressed. How much resistance do you get from people when you kind of explain that to them? Like, are they like, oh, there's no way that's what's causing it, you know?
Um, well, the basis of cardiac rehab is to change people's lifestyles in almost every facet to help point them to health. And so, whether it's pointing out they're eating way too much sodium, or pointing out that they need to get off their backside and start moving, or pointing out that they need to, if they really want to sleep that better, much better, they should maybe try not watching blue light. Because that once I started teaching this class and realized the effects blue light has on our sleep, and I stopped doing that, listening to podcasts or listening to music before bed or reading in an actual book before bed, my sleep has, I mean, dramatic. And it really depends on how desperate they are and how scared they are. Most people
People will not. Go ahead.
Yeah, most people are unwilling to change, whether it's in a relationship or in their health, until they are literally scared to death. And I think it's important to be introspective enough to, when you notice a weakness in yourself or notice something that bothers you, realize you have the ability to control that and change that a lot of the time. And then taking those steps.
See, I think that's what happened to me without me even realizing it. Like, that's where it sparked the change. Because whenever I changed, something happened in that week in my head that was like, your life is not that bad. You don't belong where you're at right now, and you need to do something. Like, I think it happened without me even realizing it. And somewhere along the way, it was good positive change. It took a while. It takes a while. Just like um becoming negative takes a while. Like, it's not you just wake up one day and all of a sudden you're negative. You slowly get to that over time, making a bunch of small individual decisions, which is the same way you get healthier.
Exactly.
Um,
Well, I teach a class over the psychology of goal setting and how to actually achieve goals and not just set them. And a big part of it is baby steps
mhm.
and focusing on one thing at a time. Because just like in a relationship, if you say you do this and this and this and this and this and this wrong, the other person's going to be like, I can't change all that.
Yeah.
So they don't change anything.
Hmm.
Your brain will say the same thing and diminish your motivation in huge ways if you set too many goals that are too big all at once.
Yeah.
So it's all about those baby steps.
Wow. I want to take your class.
Or like, what if you have a goal like that's
I'm not joking. I really do.
I'll come back and review my goals. But like, let's say
Is it open? Is your class open to anybody, or is it just for your specifically treatment that?
by a physician, not just
Oh, oh. No, I'm just joking.
It's a qualifying diagnosis.
Stable what?
Angina, which means stable chest pain. And
I don't know what
chest
that
pain is
is.
very subjective. If you have pain in your chest, you go to your doctor and say, I'm having pain in my chest.
You know what? Last time I told my doctor that I have something wrong in my chest, he didn't believe me.
You should find a different doctor.
I don't go to him anymore. But every once in a while, I have this flutter, and it causes me to stop and like focus on.
I'm kind of making you cough.
No,
That's what happens to me when I'm in the chest.
no, it's not a cough thing. It's I think it's a heart thing because I feel it right here,
And you said
and well, it gives. I want to say the best way to describe it is just a slight flutter. It causes a tingling sensation in my head, almost like the blood has seeped out to go to my heart because something's wrong. Um, and it only happens for a little while. And my wife has been sitting across from me when it's happened, and she's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Just give me a second," and I focus on my breathing and I calm myself and like try not to get worked up because it's not good for your heart anyway. And then it goes away.
Well,
Um,
we'll have what's called preventricular contractions, which is just an extra pump in the bottom of the heart.
it's not an extra pump.
But if our electrolytes gets imbalanced, if we get dehydrated, which is easy to do with long runs, um, if we've had too much caffeine, if we have a lot of stress, we can have a lot of those in a row. And depending on how many you have in a row, can be considered VTAC, which
Hmm.
is when the bottom of the heart is going like this, and the top part is not moving. Which, if the top part is not pumping blood into the bottom part, you're not pumping blood. So it's possible
Hmm.
having quick runs of VTAC or lots of PVCs in a row
Yeah.
that is causing the fluttering and would make you feel that way. And so something to keep an eye on is how well you're replenishing your electrolytes, how hydrated you are, how much caffeine you've had.
Well, both my father and my brother in their early 40s had heart issues.
Oh,
So,
mhm.
well, I've had the ultrasound
Okay.
of your heart done where the dude sits at the echocardiogram, right? Isn't that what it's called? I've had them do that and they sit there and watch it pump and everything and measure it and everything. And they swear up and down that my heart is fantastic, which it most likely is. I wouldn't be able to do what I do on a regular basis. But there's just that little thing every once in a while. Doesn't happen that often,
Yeah.
but every once in a while it shocks me. Like I'm like, huh, maybe I'm not immortal. Maybe once a year.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Like not that often. Not that often.
Because the echo only looks at the structures of the heart, like the valves, how thick your muscle is, the strength of your heart. It doesn't tell us about the plumbing of your heart, which is the arteries on the outside that could cause a heart attack. It doesn't tell us about the electrical activity in your heart, which is shown by an EKG.
Hmm.
And so, usually, one of the first heart symptoms people notice that is a precursor to having an event is a sudden decrease in stamina or having chest pain when you're exercising, but it goes away at rest.
Yeah, I don't have that.
So if you ever notice any of those things, be sure. Or if your once a year thing becomes more often than cross me,
I will.
you'll text me and I'll send
I
you
will.
some doctor.
I will. If I ever have heart issues where I want to go talk to, you'll be the first person I call.
Good, good.
So, girl bladder. 1 second.
You're good.
Oh, my life is so hard.
Gonna check to see if the puppy's still alive.
Oh, yes, the puppy. Show the puppy to the camera so people can
Okay.
see it.
Okay. My yes, so my sister breeds English bulldogs, and one of her puppies is sick, and I'm helping take care of it. Um, while she is at a volleyball tournament with her daughter, and it's a 5-week-old English bulldog. I'm gonna try to hold this up to the camera. It's precious, and I left the bulldog with my 3 children and my husband to come here with Ross. And I do not have any text messages saying the bulldog's having any problems. So I bet he's doing just fine. My husband is pretty capable. He's been great. Anytime any of our children have had issues growing up, he's done a great job acting quickly.
Your husband sounds like a good guy. Which, by the way, good for you, bro. Just saying. Good for you, man. Scoring this one. I've known you since you were 16.
I was 15 and a half when I got hired at Sun.
Yeah. And many dudes wanted to marry you.
Like Robbie.
Oh my God, Robbie.
Every bit.
Wait, you dated Robbie? When was that?
My senior year of high school.
I don't really remember that, but it may have been. So I remember Robbie being in I don't want to say this meanly. Um, kind of a
So young.
wuss. I did not.
Yeah, he took his life.
I know he got really bad into drugs. I remember that car he had when we worked together that he was so proud of that he sold for money to buy drugs. Like he sold the rims off of it and everything. I remember him, he worked so hard all those years to make that for what it was.
Yeah,
And then he went down I don't remember what drug it was. I want to say it was meth or something like that. Um,
yeah. I remember all the girls that saw it had such a crush on him.
he was a cute
And
kid.
so
He was a cute kid.
when he chose me, I was like,
I do.
to marry her.
Oh, I was an assistant manager at Sonic once. I thought I was cool too.
You know, we all have our moments.
Ooh, a man with power.
Sure.
No, I did not know that he took his own life. When was that?
Told me via Instagram Messenger a couple years ago. I want to say
Hmm.
maybe a year ago.
That's it.
Yeah,
He was a young guy.
yeah.
Did Spoo by any chance say why?
No,
Like, was there any explanation of anything
I
in
don't
there?
think they had stayed in touch,
But
but I don't
not
think they.
enough. Yeah, that's sad. It's always sad
I,
to.
yeah, it's heartbreaking when people have reached to that depth of darkness that they think that's the only solution.
It's.
Okay.
Have you ever felt like that?
I've had periods in my life where
I'm not just talking about depression. I'm talking about.
I've had periods in my life where I have had intrusive thoughts like, man, this would be so much easier if I just went like this with my meal.
Yeah, but that's kind of
But
like a natural. Like you
but
look over a ledge and you're like, oh, I could just jump.
um, luckily, I have never reached.
It's a deep, dark place. It really is. Like uh, when I decided to change, it was because I stared over the edge of a bridge and wanted to jump off of it. And the the shame that brings you to that point, and the thoughts of how the world would be better without you were so weird. Like I believe in myself now. Like I found that belief in myself. I didn't have it back then. Um, I found that belief in myself again, and I can visualize crossing the 100-mile race line and the feeling that like that will give me of accomplishment and everything. And it's overwhelming sometimes when I think about it. Like it almost brings tears to my eyes. And it's very strong feeling. Those feelings are have never been, even when I accomplished my Spartan race. Whenever I crossed the finish line and I got the medal, I stopped and I kneeled down and I just took a moment to, hey, I did this, and kind of cried a little bit and, absorb the moment. And it was a great feeling, amazing feeling. Kind of similar to what the feeling is when I visualize crossing the 100-mile line. But no matter how strong those feelings were, they have never surpassed the strength of the negative feelings that I felt when I was staring over the edge of that bridge.
Wow.
Like that's how strong, no matter how good you can feel, it is not as strong as how bad you can feel. It's crazy how powerful that is. And I mean, I don't know a better way to explain it than that. Because everybody knows what good feeling tastes feels like. Not everybody knows what that depth of depression feels like. You know,
And the strength it takes to walk away from that,
not
to not give in to that pull.
but see, that's the thing is I don't
Because you said you wanted to jump over, but you didn't.
Yeah, but I got talked off the ledge.
So someone was there.
Someone was there. I even I'm not going to talk about that because it's in my book. I go into much more detail in my book that I'm writing about that specific day. But I don't think, had that police officer been there, I don't think I would have walked away from that ledge. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't think I would have had the strength to walk away.
That's okay.
Yeah. No, I mean it's like I've never really thought about that. I've never really thought about that. Yeah, had that cop not been there and talked to me that day, I don't think I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's people placed in certain places at a certain time. A big reason.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes we don't realize.
Oh, absolutely. Like I
Sometimes
said, I go into more detail about specifically that, what you just said in my book. Yeah. It's called Road Construction Ahead
Cool.
because that's life.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Man, I never really thought about that. That's crazy.
Think on that.
I am.
Processing.
That's a new couple paragraphs.
Boom. You're welcome.
I expect. I'd like to dedicate this depression to Emily. She brought it out in me, made me think about it. That's crazy though. Like that sucks. Robbie was a good kid too.
Yeah. He had a lot of talent and he was charming.
He was charming. Yeah, absolutely. He was charming.
Running the Sonic ship.
It's a Sonic. I ran that thing super high all the time, okay?
Do you remember how my name tag said Earl?
I actually thought about calling you Earl when I saw you today. I almost introduced you as, "Hey Earl, how you doing?"
And when we had angry customers, they would always send me out and be like, Earl will be right out to get your food that's been messed up. And I'd be like,
And just FYI, everybody, Emily's name was, I don't remember your middle name.
Ray.
Emily Ray Linford. So the abbreviations are ERL, Earl.
Yeah.
That's what we used to call her at Sonic.
Already there, and any of the nicknames they tried to come up with Emily, she already answered to, and she was like, "No, none of this will do."
Yeah.
And I don't know how somebody.
What was Emily's last name?
Myers.
Emily Myers. That's right.
So, I don't know how they decided to do my initials in there, but like they put ERL on my name tag, so people.
I think it was Greg.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. That's totally a Greg thing.
But people would read my name tag and they'd be like,
Ew. But yeah, I thought about that this morning. I almost be like, "Hi Earl, how you doing?" Because I'm sure nobody calls you that anymore. Well, your last name is Roach now.
No.
An angry mama bear.
She was terrified to get her pins pulled out. Pull them out in office. And as a 4-year-old, she was like, wait a second. They put me to sleep to put the pins in, but I'm going to be awake in a doctor's office to take them out. And I was like, yeah, the doctor says it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And she was like, and she was kept bawling and bawling. And the night before, she couldn't go to sleep. And I said, baby, I'm not going to let anybody hurt you. I said, I will go mama bear on them. And she said, what's mama bear? And I said, so did you know that in the forest, they are more afraid of bears that are mamas than bears that are daddies? Because a bear that is a mama, if you mess with her babies, she will rip your head off with her claws. And I said, if that doctor starts to hurt you and you want him to stop, I will make him stop. And she said, will you spank him on the bottom if you want? And I said, I will. You bet. This girl, She the other day she said, "Mama, guess what?" And I said, "Spill the tea." She was laying in bed. And she said, "What does that mean?" And I said, "Spill the drama." And she went, "Oh." Then it's like she understood the assignment. She went, "There's a new kid in my class." And I said, "Boy or girl?" And she said, "Boy." She said, and I said, "What else?" And she said, "He has a Spider-Man backpack."
That's the drama in her life. Oh my God, I want that drama in my life so bad. Oh, used to be so much easier. Not to worry about boys with Spider-Man backpacks.
Oh, she told me a boy kissed her. And then him just took her face and kissed her. And I said, "Did you slap him?" And she said, "I kind of liked it." And I said, "Well, if anyone ever kisses you or touches you and you don't want them to, you have my full permission to slap them." And she was like, "Okay." And I said, "But I don't want you kissing anyone." She's like, "Okay."
Did you really have that
Oh,
kind of nod?
oh,
That sassy?
girl. Like my boys, he would wake up and come out of my bedroom, no makeup, face broken out, look in my eyes, so gross. And they will, with all sincerity, be like, "Mommy, you're so beautiful." Like, "Thank you, baby." And then I could be dressed to the nines, and Ember would be like, "I like your eyebrows." My eyebrows are the same. All the time.
Oh, kids are so amazing.
Yeah, they are. They make uh, just reliving so many things through their eyes is really, really fun.
My favorite is when you see a kid figure something out. When you see it click in their head and like, oh, that's how that works. That's my favorite thing. That genuine, oh, yeah.
When you see them overcome something too that they didn't think they could do, that's
Give me an example. I don't have children, so.
my two boys competed in their first jujitsu tournament last September, and especially my oldest, he was so nervous, and it was their first ever jujitsu tournament. At the time, they were white belts, and most people who compete in their first tournament lose regardless of age, and
Because you don't know what to expect.
like especially because you don't know what to expect, and there's so much adrenaline and nervousness, and there's a crowd watching you, and you're going against someone you've never met, and oftentimes you step on that mat and forget you know jujitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. You got all this other
Yeah,
stuff going on. Yeah.
and then oftentimes if you do win, it's often on points and submissions, because in jiu-jitsu, depending on what position you get points for it. And my oldest son won first in this competition, and he out of the 7 matches he won, he's won 5 of them with submission. And like after each one, he was like, "I can do this, I can do this." And
You can see the confidence in
yeah,
them.
and he struggles a lot with social interactions and making friends, and so watching him like have this win, be like, "I didn't think I could do it, and I worked hard for it, and then I did it, and I got first." It was so proud. My middle son, he likes jujitsu, but he's definitely not as into it as the older one. So he got third in this bracket, for
Which is still good.
which is still amazing. There was like 12 kids, but
That's good.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
When you're going to start your daughter in jujitsu?
We have on and off. This girl has such a natural talent for it. She chased this little boy that was in the class because they were like, "All right, practice getting into mount," like sitting on them. And he was like running from her, and she was chasing him and climbing right up on top of him. She's like, "Come here."
Come here. I know how to do this.
Yeah, but she, in her defense, she turned 4 in July, and that's when you get to start. And our gym is air conditioned, but it insulation isn't super great.
I'm going to say, no, I don't care how air conditioned a room is.
Super cool in there, and you're doing jujitsu in a canvas bathrobe gi, and she wasn't a fan of how overheated she got, and pushing through that, she was just like, "I'm not committed to put up with this." So we stopped, and then she tried again, and same thing. She did so great her first class, and she was like, yes. And then the class after that, she was like, I don't want to. And I was like, okay. I think it's just FOMO because as soon
Yeah.
as she stops, then she sees me and brothers getting on the mat. She's like, oh.
Hmm.
I definitely want her at some point in her life to take some kind of martial arts. So
Absolutely.
she can feel capable and strong.
Absolutely. That'll help with the, like you were talking about, you're not sure of letting your kids on social media and everything. Like, I think from, and also hearing other smart people talk about it, part of the problem with the social media is lack of confidence
Mhm.
because people see, they look over here at this person who has this amazing lifestyle, which they don't see the work behind,
Mhm.
and their lack of confidence in themselves, that's when they start to get depressed, like, oh, I'll never be like that. But yet, somebody who at a young age, like your oldest, for example, he sticks with jujitsu. How old is he now?
10.
He's 10. By the time that kid's 15, he's going to be the most confident person in his class. And people are going to see that and attract to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's one of the greatest things about martial arts
Mm-hmm.
in general is, you know, the confidence that it builds in you.
Yeah, in your ability. And regardless of the martial art, it takes grit and perseverance and pushing through pain and doing things that are scary and uncomfortable and you're not sure of, and proving to yourself over and again you can do hard things.
Hmm.
I think has a lot of quality in it. So
Yeah, for sure. What I think the grossest thing about jujitsu is rubbing up against somebody's sweaty body because
being a football trainer,
I am I sweat ridiculously when I exercise.
mm-hmm.
Like, it's in the jujitsu classes that I had been to, and by the end of the warm up, I'm drenched in sweat. So by the time we're rolling on the mat, I know that guy across from me or woman, whoever I'm rolling with, is not wanting to. Yeah. Oh, ugh.
Other people's sweat doesn't bother me. It does bother me a little bit when it's like raining.
See,
It gets in my eye.
that's my problem. Is like when I'm mounted on somebody, like it'll.
Yeah.
I don't have hair to stop this, so it just
It's
it just falls, and I know I've seen people go.
a couple guys who are like, oh, but like, and it has gotten in my mouth and my eye before from other people, and
It's
you just
gross.
are like, I don't know. I'm not a huge germaphobe whenever it comes to like that stuff.
It's not the germs that bother me about it. It's just the
If I'm
ugh.
ready for it, it's just like with temperature or pain or really anything. If I'm ready for it, I can handle a lot. It's when it's a surprise. So you're like, oh,
Yeah.
but
It is one way to get out of positions that you're uh not comfortable in. Like, if somebody's sweating on me personally, I'm like, okay, we need to move. Let me get out of here.
definitely not sitting here.
Yeah.
It's not just because I can't breathe with you sitting on me.
Yeah.
No,
True. Yeah.
you're
It, it's
me.
the sweat. Gross.
It's a waterboard solution.
Yeah, right. Throw a towel over my mouth and just drip the sweat in there. I've never actually rolled with a gi on. I've never done gi. I've just always done non-gi classes.
Especially as a smaller woman, I've always appreciated the gi because it gives me more ability to control and submit and grab
Hmm.
than with gi. I think, I mean, with no gi is great because it's so fast paced and like in the real world,
That's most likely, yeah.
need to submit someone there. It's uh, not a huge chance they're going to have a coat on and pants on.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as like the sport of it,
Yeah.
I appreciate all the technicalities of the gi and all you can do with it, and like trapping them in your own.
Yeah. I was going to say, you can choke somebody with a gi.
There's not a lot of things that are more intimidating than when someone's sitting on you and then they go, and then they choke you with. It reminds me of like a dad in the movies who's holding his belt out and
Yeah.
beat you, sitting on you, and then you're like, oh,
Here we go. That's good.
yeah. My favorite though is especially the women I train at that gym. We laugh nonstop. We have a brown belt named Jocelyn, and she and I just jive so well. And she's a black belt in Muay Thai and a brown belt in Jiu Jitsu.
Ooh,
And
that's
she's
not a woman I would want to mess with. It's not a woman I would mess with.
yeah, but she and I are always laughing. And one time I was about to choke her, and just something went weird with my breathing. I may have had some drainage. I don't know, but I like did this growl snort thing just as I was doing the choke, and then she started laughing and had to tap because she was laughing while I was partially choking. And then I was like, I think I'm gonna have to make this like a tradition because somehow I like make animal noises as I'm choking. And
To
then
throw her
we
off.
discovered like you can say things in a normal voice and they're not weird in jujitsu, but if you whisper them, they're really weird.
Creepy.
It's like- And
That would be kind of creepy as someone strangling you and they're, hey, your hair looks really pretty.
right. Or and the one time I had her in my clothes guard and it was summertime, and so the only skin part of me that was touching each other was my ankles trying to stay closed. And I was like, my ankles are so sweaty right now. And she was like, I double dog dare you to go up to someone in the grocery store and just say, my ankles are so sweaty.
I think that might actually make me laugh in
Yeah.
a grocery if some random chick walked up to me.
I was so sweaty. And then, like, whenever I'm joking, especially a dude, I'm just
Do you really?
like,
Yeah.
most times.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Because no dude wants to be like, man, a chick choked me out this morning.
Yeah. But the guys I roll with, a lot of them are military and police.
Mhm.
And a lot of them are dads. They're awesome. The camaraderie and like it's a special kind of friendship that you have with people that you like joke.
Well, it's like best example I can give of that is two dudes who get in an argument at a bar. They go outside and they fight. After that fight, they come in and take shots together. Because something changes in that, like, yeah, you started out hating each other, but then you kind of grew some respect for each other in that fight.
For sure.
And now you're like, hey, bud, let's go have a fucking shot together. Like I've punched a dude in the face at a bar and then took a shot with him afterwards. It's just one of those things. It's so weird when you engage in some sort of combat with somebody else and you're not trying to kill each other. Um, something there's a relationship that grows in that, like you said.
Well, and like I said earlier, as adults, we aren't provided that opportunity to like have physical play very often. And so to like literally just roughhouse and wrestle and laugh and joke around, but let out some aggression sometimes too. It's just I always leave jujitsu smiling and like that felt so good.
Yeah.
Even if I got my belt.
Yeah, and then there's another thing, like there's something about being humbled
Oh yeah.
when somebody who, like, for example, you choking out some guy, that humbles that dude. Like, whoa, I thought I was a badass, but this little 130-pound chick just choked me out, you know, or kicked my ass, whatever it may be. That's humbling. The jujitsu community is such a um, welcoming
It is.
community.
It's like they become your family.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, you still get assholes like you get everything.
Yeah.
Like
Different gyms have different cultures.
yeah, I remember being at one of these classes that I went to, and that night there was this new guy there, and he ended up breaking some dude's rib, because we were supposed to be kind of sparring. We were doing stand up sparring at the time, and with you and your partner, you decide what level you want to kind of go at it with. Like 75%, 50%, whatever it may be. Um, and he just didn't respect that at all, and he just took one shot to dude's rib, ended up breaking his rib. Like, you get assholes everywhere, and that dude ended up not coming back to classes and whatnot, because those people always weed themselves out, you know. Um, but yeah, that's something you gotta deal with sometimes. That's just those bullies.
Mhm. Or like people having an ego, because there have been. It's usually like teenage boys who have a hard time tapping to a girl.
That doesn't surprise me. But teenage boys are very egocentric.
They
Like,
try
they're
to prove
building.
themselves,
Yeah,
prove themselves.
I can't be beat by a girl. Yeah, you can, dude.
They're usually the ones that like full on get this close to passing out before they'll tap to a choke.
Mhm.
Where other people in class, you tap like as soon as you feel that they got it
Yeah.
locked in,
Like, oh, okay, yeah, you got that locked in. I'm not gonna get out of that. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you your classes, do you guys ever do the thing where you actually get choked out?
no,
You ever done that? Like, where you hold up a
yeah,
bar so you can tell when they lose consciousness?
straight they have to know what it feels like, so that way, uh, like for their training. But
And you can see how long they
yeah,
can
and I'm
push
sure there are
themselves.
people that do that.
Not yours. I was just curious if you had ever have you ever been to that point?
No,
Has anybody choked you out?
mm,
Like,
I've always like in competition is probably the only place I could see myself letting myself get close to the edge.
mhm,
Um, uh, but in class, as especially as a blue belt now, I try my best to defend and figure problem solve my way out of that situation before I tap. And I've been like bruised and stuff
mhm.
from getting choked, but the closest I've ever gone to like passing out was vaguely whenever I was pulling femoral sheets and stuff out of people when I was big and pregnant.
Yeah.
But never when the darkness started taking out, it's like you guys got to take it from me. You guys
Hey.
push, 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 because the bleed down.
Yeah. Yeah. The, um
Have you ever been close to passing out from being choked?
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a weird feeling. Just kinda,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's it literally
part.
it's I mean, it's just like that, except it just goes black. Um, it wasn't in competition or anything. It was just, "Hey, let's see what it's like to pass out. Let's know what that feeling is like." It's weird. Very weird. One of the things I've liked about jujitsu is it taught me how to calm myself.
Yes, and like regulate your
Well,
mind so that you can think or
yeah, yeah. Um, like, I used to not like tight spaces. I used to get immediately. Yeah. I mean, even sometimes, like, the other day, I had my wife get off of me, actually, because I was like, "Oh, that feeling's like, get off me," you know? Because sometimes just when you get in a certain position, your body's like, "How would we can't get out of this," and it starts to freak out a little bit. Um, Jujitsu taught me how to calm that, uh, because you obviously get into very uncomfortable positions, you know, and in order to get out of them, you have to. One of the greatest things uh, I learned from a guy named Russ was that you have to learn how to tell yourself to calm down,
Mhm.
because everybody freaks out in those situations because it's uncomfortable. It's unnatural. Like, it's natural for your mind to go, we need to get out of this. You have to, yeah, you have to learn to calm down and then figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah, because like the anatomy of it is when you feel calm, your prefrontal cortex is your logical part of the brain that puts on. But as soon as you your sympathetic nervous system senses any kind of
Your animal
danger.
instinct.
Your animal brain turns on, which is the dorsal striatum and nucleus accumbens, and that is focused on right now, seeking comfort right now, not concerned about future consequences or what
Mhm.
that's going to look like.
Exactly.
And you can turn that off and turn your prefrontal cortex back on by like the way you think or the way you breathe.
That's what it is. You have to learn to control that. And it happened I got into a little scuffle with a guy at work one day, and I rushed him, and his arm ended up around me, around my head.
Mm.
And it wasn't around me. It wasn't around my neck like he wanted. Like my head wasn't here. He was around my head. But at first, it was like, oh shit, he's got me in a chokehold. But then calming down, like, he doesn't have me in a chokehold. He's like wrapped around here. He doesn't have anything. Hang on. And it's like, if I do this, I'll slide right out and I can just,
Got his back.
and man, it was one of the most liberating feelings because like in that moment, I don't want to say time slowed down, but
It was though.
it does.
It's faster than what's happening.
Exactly. Uh, but in that instant, like my confidence was like, bro, you got this. This dude ain't shit. He doesn't know what he's fucking doing. You know, me and that dude, we're cool to this day. Like I said, when you get in a fight with people, usually, I think the dude bought me a drink the next time, whatever. Uh, but it's really a cool feeling to realize that you can be in a situation like that and then calm yourself down and get out of it.
And I would say one of the biggest benefits of jujitsu as well that I've definitely noticed in just my day-to-day life is my ability to focus and remember. Because when you start jujitsu in the beginning, your instructor shows you a multi-step um, move once, sometimes twice, pretty quickly. And then they're like, all right, go, practice it. And for several months, and when I first started jujitsu, I would walk away and be like, I really hope you remember that because I don't remember any of that. And
I
your
know
ability,
exactly what you're talking
yeah,
about.
to train your mind to be like, yes, boom, and then go and repeat it flawlessly. Like at work or in day to day life when someone tells me a number now, or whenever something has happened, when in the past I would struggle to remember details. Now I'm like, boom. And like
Kind of clears your mind.
you can wire your brain to remember and pay attention better.
Oh, absolutely.
That has for sure helped me.
I think it's just amazing in general how you can rewire your brain.
Yeah, the neuroplasticity, you can wire your brain for negative thought, you can wire your brain for positive thought.
And that's like I said earlier, like I didn't plan on changing my mental state. It just kind of became one of those things that happened from the things that I did. Like I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it now of the changes that I made, but I just didn't realize it when they were happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's so cool. Yeah, in a way. Yeah. And in that aspect, that's why I tell people like listening to motivational speeches, it's not about hearing something new and profound. It's about hearing it enough to where I begin to believe it.
Well, because what we listen to, what we watch, truly becomes our thoughts
Hmm.
and our feelings and our speech. And I think people sometimes take that for granted because they're like, oh, this TV show, this music, it's so catchy or it's so interesting, even though it's like so dark and scary and reinforcing
Hmm.
bad values. They don't give it enough respect, I think,
Yeah,
the effects it can have on you.
absolutely. And that's like you said, that's what people fail to realize. It's the little details that make the changes in your life. It's not the big ones. Big things happen, don't get me wrong, but it's the little things that you do over time that makes the changes that make you the person you are.
100%.
You know what I mean? What is you're 35 now.
Mm-hmm.
You went from a young lady to a mother and a wife. What is something you've learned in 35 years about life?
Oh man, that's a loaded question.
It's very loaded.
Uh,
I had a conversation with one guy one day. It ended up the software didn't work, so we didn't get to post it. But we were having a conversation like this, and at the end of it, he's like, "All your conversations end up that deep?" I'm like, "Most of the time, yeah." Because well, that's me.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm interested in hearing is your thoughts on life. Like I know what mine are,
Yeah.
but I want to hear your
I
thoughts.
totally hear your heart.
Yeah, exactly. But see, that's so the whole goal of this, the whole goal of everything that I have planned in my life for over the next 10, 20 years is to uplift the people that are around me. The goal is the goal is not money.
Mhm.
Money's a byproduct of all
Mhm.
those things. The goal is to help people around me that are in my circle that I allow into my life to build them up, to make them happier people and better people. Uh, this podcast is one of the ways I want to do that. And that's because I don't know if I talked about this on a podcast already or not. We're only 4 episodes in and I can't remember. But so I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast one day and he had on Rob Lowe. And Rob Lowe was describing Rob Lowe has been sober since the 80s in Hollywood, like from cocaine, booze, all that stuff. He quit that in the 80s, 1980s, young people. Um, um, he quit.
Oh, my kids.
My wife told me that we're from the 1900s. Like that's what kids say. We're from the 1900s. It's all right. I've told this story a million times. I know it. But Rob Lowe was talking about what it's like to be sober in Hollywood. And he was talking about all these celebrities that he sees that end up with alcohol and drug problems. And he's like, they all, get to a point where they end up going to a rehab. Then they come out of rehab. And within 6 months, they're like, oh, I've got a handle on this. And he's like, 100% of the time, if a person comes out of rehab and they start to believe that they have a handle on whatever issue that they went for, and then they start doing it again, like, oh, for example, me, booze was one of my problems. If at the time when I heard this podcast, I was thinking in my head, I have a handle on this booze thing now. Like, I can go out and have one Jameson and be okay. Um, he said that all those people that have those issues and think that they have a handle on it within 3 to 6 months of thinking they have a handle on it and having one drink, they're right back to where they were right before they went in. He's like, it never fails 100% of the time. And that conversation with Rob between Joe Rogan and Rob Lowe had sat in my head. And every time I ever thought that I might have a handle on any of my issues, that I could handle one drink or whatnot, I resorted back to that conversation and hearing what he said about all these people who are supposed to be amazing celebrities that we're supposed to worship and everything. They fail 100% of the time. So why would I not fail?
Mhm.
And it has literally stopped me from having a drink thousands of times. And if I can do that for one person by having a conversation with you and me, it's worth it.
For sure.
And that's what I mean by like, I want to uplift the people around me.
That's amazing. I would say, like, that's why I became a nurse. Whenever I was a football trainer in high school and I would help someone, if I describe it as a sensation, as like smiling from the inside. Like you just feel so excited and happy. And I would get that feeling anytime I helped someone, whether like they had a cut and I put a bandage on it, or their helmet was broken and I fixed it, or I taped their ankle and go, thank you, I'm now I can run again. Like it was just, but it made me fall in love with helping and being a helper, and that's why I became a nurse. And then with the mental health crisis across all generations now, um, it's what's made me fall in love with walking with people through their storms. And so I do feel like one of the secrets to life is finding a way you can use your biggest weakness to help others.
Like as a strength,
As
kind
a
of.
strength, like turning your weakness into strength. And um, realizing you're stronger than you realize and learning to enjoy the process. Like instead of waiting to be happy when you are your goal weight, learn to enjoy the process of the burn. That means your muscles are growing, and enjoy the process of being kind to your body and watching your body change. When you learn to enjoy the process, that's like a big turning point.
I love that answer.
And so if happiness and joy is a major goal in life, I would say for most people, giving it away and learning to enjoy the climb instead of waiting to be happy on the mountaintop.
I like that. That's beautiful. You've turned into such a great young woman.
Thank you.
I almost said young lady, but you're not a teenager anymore.
Call me a young lady. It's so crazy. When I became an RN when I had been 21 for not very long. And for a real long time, I was the youngest nurse in the hospital. And I constantly got this, are you sure you're old enough to be my nurse?
Mm-hmm.
Are you? Oh, you sure know a lot for being such a little girl. And then it's like I blinked. And now I'm one of the older nurses in my unit, and they're asking me the questions. And I'm like, why do I have to be in charge? Why can't somebody?
Isn't it crazy how
fast it's like in my head I'm still 20 something, and then the 20 something start talking and they're like, that's a W. And I'm like, I'm not you. Not you. I'll be over here. I'm trying to rock the middle part, trying to step into their world. Got rid of my side part. I tried to stop wearing my skinny jeans. I'm trying.
I'm trying, people. I'm trying. You're still cool. Don't worry. I think you are, but I'm also 42. So,
We're the coolest.
you know,
We're hilarious.
we are. If you're listening to this, you can go watch some of my comedy videos. They're on my YouTube channel. I have jokes.
You do. I watched them.
Mm-hmm. I've been doing comedy as long as I've known you.
Yeah, I remember.
Off and on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, open mic night.
Mm-hmm. No, it's still open mics. Like I don't really do shows or anything. I don't think I quit for a very long time, but that's because I kind of gave up on it.
Focusing on one thing at a time.
No, I was just in a bad state back then. You know, I was a quitter most of my life. I quit things regularly. Like that's why, like one of my goals this year is to start learning piano again. Because when I was in, my mother had us do, we had to do 2 years of music. Could be any instrument, whatever it was. You could continue it after the 2 years or not, but you had to do 2 years. Mine was piano. Same with my younger brother. He did piano as well. My older brother, fucking band nerd. He did the tuba. You know, the big.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That was my older brother. He was the tuba boy. But after the 2 years, I quit. And I'm not saying that's what started my quitting attitude. I think I had that for a long time. The only thing I hadn't quit since I was younger was running. But so now that I'm in my 40s and I'm chasing my dreams again.
Undo a couple of your quits.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
Exactly. You know,
my 10-year-old is taking piano lessons, and next year in 5th grade he has the option of playing a musical instrument, and he was like, Mom, which one should I do? Should I do the drums, the saxophone, or the clarinet? Those are my options. And I was like, I see you more as a saxophone kind of guy. It's like clarinet is really more for a studious, very detailed type person in my mind. And then I said, in the drums, I don't want drums in my house. So I showed him the sexy saxophone videos. Have you seen those?
Kenny G.
Yeah, he was like, do. But he like has no shirt on, and he busts into like college classes.
Oh, I have not seen those videos. I'm talking about Kenny G from like the late 80s, early 90s.
He has a black mullet, and he has no shirt on.
Is he ripped?
Um,
Like sexy ripped? If he's the sexy saxophone man, he better be.
He's in good shape. I would say
He doesn't have a.
probably ripped, but he's like
He's not a
saxophone.
35-year-old overweight.
No. He's got good tone. He definitely works out,
Hmm.
and he's got his saxophone, and he like barges into malls and pulls up his jacket, and gets on top of the table, and he does hip thrusts. And he's like, and it's hilarious. I'm sorry, so it's
And this is what you want your son to do.
funny. And he's like, yes.
I'm the sexy saxophone man. That's me, Mom.
Great influence.
15 years, that'd be me on videos. I'm going to be a sexy saxophone influencer. You just ruined your child. He's going to be a saxophone man. Do you know how much money Kenny G made in the 90s? Okay. And that was before the internet.
But I feel like you have to develop character in your children. If
Absolutely.
they don't have at least a little bit of their childhood that they need to process with a counselor, have you really done your job?
That's a good point. I mean, my mom did good and bad, you know?
We all do. I heard a child psychologist say that research has shown you really only have to get it right 50% of the time for your child to turn out good.
Yeah, but we got some pretty low standards. What time is it? Oh shit, we went way past. Do you want to answer that? Yeah, we are live.
Okay, I'll come back.
It's 1:20 though.
It's 1:20.
Yeah, I scheduled you from 10 to 1, so well, we had some snafus.
We covered a lot of good topics.
We
I
did.
really enjoyed this.
I'd like to do it again regularly if you don't mind. I mean,
It was
like,
a 30-minute drive.
yeah. I mean, I got somebody coming from Dallas next week. Yeah, she's my wife's niece, Jordan. Very beautiful young lady. Just got married recently to her high school sweetheart, just like her parents. Her parents were high school sweethearts and still together to this day. She married her high school sweetheart, but she went to college in 2020, her freshman year of college. Yeah. So like that's one of the things that I want to talk with her about. You know, it's like, what was that like?
My best friend who's the runner, she went to nursing school.
Ugh. I can imagine doing really anything in 2020. Luckily, I had a job that let me work from home. So that was kind of nice.
I worked in cardiac rehab and I got shipped to the hospital for 4 months.
Oh, and the front lines, as they called it on the news.
Yeah, they were really kind to me with my assignment since I hadn't been on the floor in a while, and admittedly a little rusty.
Yeah.
So they gave me. I still was having people having like heart attacks and stuff, but I didn't have any COVID positive. We had
Yeah.
full COVID unit, and so I took care of the cardiac patients, so the other nurses could that were there full time took care of the COVID
That's
patients.
good.
So shout out to those amazing nurses.
Nurses are amazing. Anyway, I know they've done some great things for me. So, well, Emily, thank you very much for coming, being on the Draws Ball situation. Miss Earl. Oh, everybody have a good day. Bye. Look at her. See?